What if the greatest statement Dylan Wang ever made about Shen Yue was not spoken at a press conference, not written in a post, but delivered through absence? For years, fans asked the same question in different ways, across different languages, on different platforms. Why did Dylan Wang stop acting with Shen Yue? Why did two stars with undeniable chemistry never share the screen again? Was it conflict, management pressure, ambition, or something far more personal? Right now, right before the next revelation, is your chance to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful story, another shocking twist, or another unforgettable journey. Now, for the first time, the silence has cracked. And the truth is far more complex than anyone expected. The story begins at the height of Daishin, a pairing that did not feel manufactured, a connection that translated effortlessly through the camera lens, leaving audiences convinced they were witnessing something rare. Their performances were not loud. They were intimate, natural, almost dangerous in how real they felt. And that realism became both their power and their burden. Because when chemistry feels that authentic, it stops being just acting. Behind the scenes, Dylan Wang was undergoing a transformation. From rising star to industry heavyweight. With success came pressure, expectations, scrutiny. Every move dissected, every interaction magnified. And at the center of that scrutiny was his dynamic with Shen Yue, a dynamic fans refused to see as fictional. Insiders reveal that Dylan became increasingly aware of how their pairing was being consumed. Not appreciated, but possessed. Scripts were no longer read for their artistic value alone. They were judged by one question. Will Shen Yue be there? That question haunted him. In a rare, candid moment shared privately and later confirmed by sources close to his team, Dylan reportedly admitted something that shocked even those closest to him. He said that continuing to act with Shen Yue felt like standing inside a story that no longer belonged to them. It belonged to everyone else. And that scared him. This was not about ego. It was about control. About protecting something meaningful from being distorted by expectations neither of them could manage. Every glance they shared on screen fueled rumors. Every interview together turned into an interrogation. The line between performance and personal life had completely collapsed. So Dylan made a decision. A quiet one. A painful one. He stepped back. Not because he did not respect Shen Yue. Not because the chemistry faded. But because it was too strong to survive the machine surrounding it. Continuing to act together would have trapped them forever in one narrative, freezing their growth, reducing their identities to a single pairing. Those close to Shen Yue describe her initial reaction as confusion, followed by understanding. There was no dramatic fallout. No argument. Just the slow realization that sometimes protecting a bond means changing its shape. Years later, Dylan finally addressed the subject in a controlled, deliberate way. Not naming Shen Yue directly, but speaking about boundaries, timing, and the cost of being misunderstood. He spoke about choosing roles that allowed him to disappear into characters, rather than be constantly compared to past connections. He said something that stopped fans cold. Some relationships are too honest to be repeated. That sentence was not bitterness. It was reverence. Because the truth is, Dylan Wang did not stop acting with Shen Yue because something went wrong. He stopped because something went right. Too right. The industry rarely allows sincerity to exist without exploitation. And Dylan saw the warning signs early. Repeating that collaboration would have diluted what made it special, turning something genuine into a commercial formula. So he walked away from the easiest applause he could ever receive. And in doing so, he preserved the integrity of what they shared. Today, when fans revisit their scenes together, there is a different understanding. Not longing for a reunion, but respect for the restraint. For the maturity it took to let something remain untouched rather than overused. The truth about why Dylan Wang stopped acting with Shen Yue is not rooted in scandal or separation. It is rooted in choice. A choice to protect a moment in time. A choice to grow separately without rewriting the past. A choice to let something beautiful exist without forcing it to continue. And as the screen fades to black, one final realization settles in. Some stories are powerful precisely because they end. Not in flames. but in silence. And yet, even after the silence was broken, the story continued to unfold in ways no official statement could ever explain. Because when Dylan Wang chose to step away, the world assumed distance meant detachment. It did not. What it meant was restraint. Those closest to Dylan describe a period of quiet recalibration that followed his decision. He became more selective, more guarded. Roles were chosen not for hype, but for distance. Distance from the past, and distance from expectations that threatened to define him before he had fully defined himself. He was no longer running toward success. He was running away from being trapped by it. Shen Yue, meanwhile, was navigating her own transformation. No longer the fresh-face audiences first fell in love with, she began stepping into roles that demanded depth, vulnerability, and emotional gravity. And although their paths no longer crossed on screen, something unspoken remained intact. Mutual respect, mutual understanding, the kind that does not require proximity to survive. Industry insiders later revealed a detail that reframed everything. Dylan had reportedly turned down at least 2 projects that would have reunited him with Shen Yue. Not because the scripts were weak, not because the timing was wrong, but because he feared the conversation would drown out the art. The headlines would arrive before the performances. The speculation would eclipse the story. He did not want their reunion to be consumed before it was even created. And so he said no. Not publicly, not dramatically, quietly, consistently. In a later interview, when asked about past collaborations that shaped him, Dylan paused longer than usual. That pause said more than his answer ever could. He spoke about learning when to hold on and when to let something rest, about understanding that repetition does not always honor significance. Sometimes it erodes it. He never mentioned Shen Yue's name. He did not need to. Fans who listened closely heard it anyway. What many did not realize is that this decision cost him. Walking away from a guaranteed fan-favorite pairing in an industry driven by numbers is not a safe move. It is a risky one. It means choosing longevity over immediacy, respect over momentum, identity over nostalgia. And that choice reshaped how Dylan Wang was perceived. No longer just a star built on chemistry, but an actor determined to be taken seriously on his own terms. For Shen Yue, the absence created space. Space to be seen without comparison, without constant linkage, without the shadow of a beloved pairing hovering over every performance. Her growth accelerated in that space. Her confidence deepened, and the silence between them became a form of protection rather than loss. Daishin fans struggled with this truth for a long time, because it challenged the idea that love stories must continue to prove themselves to be real. It suggested something far more mature, that some bonds are validated not by repetition, but by preservation. And then came the realization that changed everything. If Dylan Wang had truly wanted to erase the past, he would have spoken against it. He never did. He never dismissed the pairing, never corrected fans, never reframed history. He allowed it to exist exactly as it was. Untouched, unedited, unrepeated. That is not avoidance. That is respect. As time passed, the industry moved on, but the question lingered quietly beneath the surface. Will they ever act together again? Those close to both stars give the same answer. Only if the story is worth risking the silence. Because now, the absence itself has meaning. It is no longer an empty gap. It is a statement, a reminder that not every powerful connection needs to be revived to remain alive. As the documentary draws to its final moments, the camera returns to the beginning. 2 young actors, one unforgettable collaboration, and a decision that reshaped everything that followed. Dylan Wang did not stop acting with Shen Yue because the story ended. He stopped because it was complete. And sometimes, the most honest way to honor a chapter is to never rewrite it.